topic. So I'll give you a brief overview to understand what actually are we talking and how is geography and economics both been studied over here. So first we have farmer in the picture. Okay, we'll take a simple picture long back which has been going for ages, and here we have the final consumer, or let's say the people who are not farming and living in cities. The process was simple. Farmer used to produce the crop and sell it to the consumer. Okay. Now, as the cities developed, शहरें बड़ी होती गई, cities और farmers के बीच में difference बढ़ता गया. And the thing happened कि जो farmer एक 6,000 रुपए के लोन के लिए suicide commit कर सकता है, how can they afford to travel and send their good to the cities and to the consumer? So to avoid that and to provide service and aid to trade, यहाँ पे बीच में आ गए middleman. So the issue with this middleman were कि वो फार्मर से गुड बहुत ही सस्ते रेट में परचेज करते थे एंड दे यूज्ड टू सेल इट टू द कंज्यूमर एट अ वेरी हाई रेट, रिजल्टिंग कंज्यूमर्स को उससे बहुत अफेक्ट होता था कि रेट उनको काफ़ी हाई पे करना पड़ रहा है एंड दे वर लाइक बीइंग रॉब्ड टेक्निकली, and the farmers were forced to sell at a very lower rate. इससे दो इशू हुआ. So we'll talk one, the issues of farmer which we are particularly looking is farmer को बहुत low rate में pay करना पड़ता था, the amount which they used to get as you know at which the middleman used to purchase from them. And the second was at, so the middleman used to purchase, वो farmer के लिए हमारे selling price हो गया, the price which they used to sell it to the middlemen. एक तो ये मेजर इशू हुआ. दूसरा इशू ये हुआ एंड समथिंग विच वी ऑल्सो सी इन डे टू डे कि फूड की स्टोरेज प्रॉपरली नहीं हो पाती है, जिसकी वजह से ये होता है कि कभी हमें सरप्लस हो जाता है, कभी अबंडेंस हो जाता है, इनकी कभी अबंडेंस हो जाता है एंड कभी हम शॉर्ट हो जाते हैं उसके लिए. सो द इशू इन दैट केस वॉज कि हमें या तो अगर गुड्स बहुत ख़त्म हो गए, जैसे कई बार आपने देखा होगा कि अनियन की शॉर्टेज हो जा रही है पुअर वेदर कंडीशन एंड एवरीथिंग की वजह से, तो हमें वो फिर इंपोर्ट करवाना पड़ रहा है, तो हमें एक एडिशनल कॉस्ट पे करना पड़ रहा है. दूसरा कंज्यूमर के लिए अगेन द रेट इज स्पाइकिंग अप एंड द मार्केट इज वेरी अनस्टेबल. सेकंड इशू ये है कि अगर कोई भी क्रॉप ज़्यादा वॉल्यूम में प्रोड्यूस हो जाएगा तो उसकी वजह से मार्केट में रेट लो हो जाएगा एंड अगेन फार्मर्स हैव टू सफर फॉर इट एंड द क्रॉप गेट्स वेस्टेज. तो हमने दोनों कंडीशन देखी है, एक जब चीज़ें बहुत महंगी हो जा रही है एंड वी लिटरली हैव मीम्स अराउंड कि instead of gold you should give onion, and then there have been cases when tomatoes have been so cheap कि उसे सिर्फ रोड पे ऐसे ही फ्रीली फेंक दिया जाता है बिकॉज वो मिनिमम कॉस्ट भी उनका रिटर्न नहीं कर पाते. सो ये दो मेजर इशू हो रहे थे हमारे, एक फार्मर के लिए सेलिंग प्राइस, दूसरा फूड का स्टॉक करना. एंड टू overcome this both the situations we had government coming here in picture to remove middlemen. अब गवर्नमेंट ने एक बहुत अच्छी टेक्निक डिसाइड की जो था कि वो सेलिंग प्राइस फिक्स कर देंगे, जिसको हम एमएसपी बोलते हैं, मिनिमम सेलिंग प्राइस. एंड द मेजॉरिटी ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स विच वी विल टॉक इज अबाउट एमएसपी ओनली. This is the first part of our process, the MSP and the government policies. Apart from it, what we will study is the problems faced by the farmers, which are basically geographical problems about how irrigation is affected, how the land volume and everything, and how different states have different things. We'll be touching around the green revolution and related topics. So these are the major topics which we will study. The overview is even mentioned over here, so you can go through. Moving in, so I just brought to you the main point which we are studying is the support to the farmers which we have provided for the welfare of the farmers, and how the government is helping for the farmers to produce a good amount of crops, and how they are able to regulate the sowing process and the volume of crops that are being grown. इसके बारे में हम एक डिटेल स्टडी करेंगे. I'll help you with the overview and you just have to go and read through these slides. The statistics, I'll also tell you कि कौन से slides आपको नहीं करने, which are completely useless. Just remove this slide. This has nothing to do with it. Again, not useful slide. These are all for your understanding, but nothing to learn on this. Again, nothing. Now we have a pointer over here, and which is something which we are very well aware of, and just something to go through and learn it. Ki what is the role of agriculture in Indian economic, and why is government putting in so much efforts for uh, looking after agriculture and spending so much and in government intervention to protect the farmer and everyone, because it is definitely holding majority of share in national economics, even for the food which we all eat. So a social thing, it is one of the basic necessity food, clothing, shelter. Then we have importance in trade. It has been very evident that how we were able to make money out of the Ukraine-Russia war by selling wheat. And then we have how raw material to the all the food processing industry is gone through the from the farms itself, and providing employment and everything, the capital, and this another important point, providing food surplus and expanding to the expanding population. So everything can be regulated, and that's why agriculture and economy in economy plays a vital role. Then this again is a case study which we can ignore. Now we'll directly start upon the causes of low productivity. I'm going with this flow, but you can also change your flow of studying. I'm just going with the PPT, so it is easy for everyone to understand. So we'll start with the low productivity, the decline in soil fertility, water scarcity, fragmented land holding, poor farm practices, inadequate access, and climate change. I'll explain and touch upon each topic. The decline in soil fertility, it is a result of excessive usage of fertilizer. Because of that, the basic nutrition value of the soil has depleted a lot. The soil also needs worms in it, those who are helpful for the decomposition process and restoring the natural nutrition value of the soil. So using so much of excessive fertilizer and urea and artificial nitrogen in the soil, the basic value is gone, and that's why we now have Sadhguru leading Protect Soil and all the campaigns towards them. Then we have water scarcity. If you see the facts mentioned over here, that 16% of the world population is in India, and we have only 4% of the fresh water. So there has been a steep decline in the fresh water. Apart from that, the groundwater level, which are naturally responsible for the irrigation of the crops and providing them the required amount of water, that has depleted a lot. We will learn further about them in the end of the PPT of what government has done reforms to it. Fragmented land holding is when a farmer does not have a large amount of land and only small lands are available to them. So because of it, the productivity declines a lot because a farmer cannot produce variety of crops in his land, and the area is limited, so the cost for that area turns out to be high, and it affects poor farm practices, again using of excessive urea, and not having enough knowledge and literacy about how to do the farming practices. And that's where the inadequate technology and information comes in. So we'll be just wondering कि how does IT comes into picture when you are doing farming. I mean, खेती कर रहे हो उसमें IT कहाँ से आता है? So the credit facilities provided to the farmers, the use of irrigation and tube well facilities, the use of computerized irrigation methods in big farms and industry, they do that. And even for the matter, use of tractors and other equipments, that all is covered under information technology. Climate change is something we are pretty well aware of. Now we'll talk about how government is trying to put initiative in agriculture. This topic we will also cover in end of the PPT, where we will have a particular problem and government solution to it. Like it will be a side by side study. Over here, if you see just overview of it, I'll zoom in a bit. So we over here have PM Kisan scheme, the and the direct benefit, the subsidies which is provided. Again, the direct benefit is very crucial, and sending it to farmer account because it will go directly from government to the farmer. Earlier, the issue was that the government used to release it, then it used to go through all the departments and panchayat and everyone, and then the farmer. We all know everyone is here filling their pockets. So to avoid that and to provide justice to the farmer and their amount has been received properly, they are providing direct. The infrastructure has been done in for promoting agriculture, like providing rural roads, constructing proper concrete metal road, and also canals and everything. Then again, PMFBY is by Pradhan. I'll read out the full form of it. It is Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, a very important process and a very important scheme, I would say. And the process of the scheme is that they would insure your crops. So the thing is, the farmers are mostly insecure that what if the climate is not in favor, the weather changes, and we are not able to grow good crops, and then the suicide rate increases, the instability in the whole agriculture and farmer groups increases. So to avoid that, we have Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. So it is like an insurance to the crops. So they will measure your crops and everything so that you do not have to go for the loss. Then we have MIDH, which is Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture. Horticulture is again a type of agriculture which is being promoted. E-NAM is place where the IT comes in. It is the electronic national agriculture market. So you can go and sell directly online. The climate smart farming is how we will sustain with climate changes. And you see recently being promoted a lot of mushrooms being grown indoor, and how well educated people like after their bachelor's or master's and working in corporate are going back and farming for all these you know mushrooms and other fruits. Then we have the food processing sector of how they have been increased in the industry also, who would help in processing the food, so the overall demand for raw material increases. Moving forward, we have government initiative in agriculture of so now this is the main part, and this is the part where economics comes in, and I believe that this is the part which you should have a good understanding, so that you understand the overall topic. Rest all I was talking is basic geography and how the social schemes have been done. So we'll talk about MSP. It is how do they calculate the cost of production in MSP, how the credit facilities have been provided. Credit facilities basically the loans which have been given to farmers at a rate, then modified interest subservation schemes. These are just the way in which they are reducing the burden of repayment of the loan and also providing easy loans so that they have at least fund. And then we have the productivity things which we discussed already. Then we have chemical free, which I mentioned that it is reducing and polluting our soil. And then we have Sakare Samriddhi for corporation to prosperity. It is again a scheme launched by government to to increase the overall prosperity in agriculture sector. MSP over here holds a vital role, and the cost of production and other calculation is a formula we have. So in this only we have two formulas. One is MSP, and another one is there's a diagram of demand and supply. Okay, so this is again current yield of India, not necessary. Activity, not necessary. In this, the link is not necessary. Here comes the MSP. So I'll explain to you what is MSP rather than just reading through it. So what happened is, now we know that the farmers are not getting adequate rate, and the middlemen are exploiting them, and farmers need to be, the welfare of the farmers is responsibility of the government. So what did the government do is that in every state they created a market, okay, and that market used to provide, that market is a place which we call it as a mandi, and that mandi is every state has their own mandi and state government regulate it, and the mandi used to have a fixed rate called MSP, okay, minimum selling price. So what is the thing is that the selling price have been fixed. That this is the minimum selling price. Suppose if it is wheat, so it is 10 rupees or 15 rupees kg. So the farmers were very much assured that if they are going to the mandis and if they are not getting a better rate anywhere outside the market, they can go to the mandi and achieve it at the minimum selling price. Now we will go deeply on when is the MSP decided, how is the MSP decided, who decides the MSP, what are the things that goes behind MSP. So the basic concept is MSP is the minimum price. So like they are fixing the price over here. So the farmers do not have to sell below it. And in fact, agar market mein the farmer is getting a good rate outside the market, they can go and definitely do that. But selling below MSP is something which is illegal, and legally it is not possible to do. But it still exists in the market. We all know that there has been always a loophole. So talking with MSP particularly, MSP does is it floors the cost over here. Okay, so we'll have a concept ahead called price flooring and MSP. So what does MSP do? It price floors. It stops the price, that it does not goes below. It sets a floors. कि इसके नीचे तो जा ही नहीं सकता. And this is the minimum price which the commodity can be sold. Now the farmer has to sell his product and auction established in APMC मंडिया. जो मैं मंडी की बात कर रहा था, they are called as APMC, and these are in all the states. They are called Mandi, and this is the Agriculture Ministry which looks after APMC. I'll tell you the full forms. So, starting with MSP, so it's the minimum support price which the government ensure for the fair value. These are the important points which we'll mention. And the government announces MSP twice a year before Kharif crop and Rabi crop. So the thing is, it is before the crop season is because when we are sowing the seeds, the farmers will be very aware. Okay, now if I'm sowing wheat, if I'm sowing rice, if I'm sowing some other seeds, lentils, so they will be very much assured that okay, if anything goes, I'll be attaining this price. So they are well aware that this is the price they are getting, so the amount of cost they need to invest and plan the crops accordingly. Because now we currently have MSP for 22 crops, and which includes 4 kharif crops, 6 rabi crops, 2 commercial crops, and there are again few seeds, tori and dehusked coconut. Dehusked coconut is our regular coconut जिसकी चटनी बनती है. Just the husk over it is removed and it is sold. And then there are again some seeds and mustards and copra. Copra is again the coconut, and mustard seed and tori seed are very similar to each other. Sarso जो होता है, that is. So why is it issued before the season? Is because the Kharif season, the monsoon season, is the place where around our summer vacation in May, June, the seeds have been shown, and us समय MSP in the Mandi they release it. The Commission of Agriculture Cost and Prices, they are responsible for releasing it, which is with approval of Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs, because they'll have, that's where the agriculture and economics comes in, and this is our topic. The Agriculture Commission and the Cabinet, they are jointly deciding the MSP. Okay, so it is the kharif crops are sown in the month of May and June. So May and June के महीने में usually rice is sown during this time. तो क्या होता है कि पूरे बारिश के महीने में it will be properly rain fed irrigation and everything, and then in around October and position at like after October and 4 months the rain is over, they have been harvested or even little late. उसके बाद ही we have all the Onam and every festival going on because the crop has been harvested. Apart from that, talking about Rabi, Rabi is again right after the Kharif has been harvested. We sow Rabi, which is winter crop, but the harvesting is done in the month of April, like over here. Before this April, man, they harvest it and they sow it around in winters, so that they do not have to face harsh summer heat during that time. In spring season, basically the harvesting is done. So a little understanding on Rabi and Kharif, it is not useful, it's just something for your understanding. आगे जाके you can see the list, उसमें से आप 5 5 crop याद कर लीजिएगा. Now how the cost is calculated, it is very simple. So the formula is C2 plus C3 and the main cost. So C2 includes actual cost plus rent, lease, cost of family labor, capital asset. Actual cost plus rent is the renting of agriculture vehicle. If you're renting anything, if you're renting tractor or the thrashing machine and everything, तो उसके लिए the rent you pay. Leasing is again if the farmer does not has his own land and if he is leasing that particular land from big landlord and someone, even the government leases out the land, so वो lease का उनका cost का cost of family labor is again the minimum labor which we have to pay to the farmers. Capital assets is if the farmer has his own land or some other assets which he is using, even the money if he is borrowing something and the interest he's paying. So ये जो चार cost होते हैं, your actual cost, the rent, lease, the cost of family labor and capital cost, ये सबको मिला के पहले C2 डिसाइड होता है. इस C2 पे 10 to 15% का रेम्यूनरेशन या फिर एक इंसेंटिव देते हैं, लाइक द कॉस्ट वी नो एंड देन गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड्स कि ओके कॉस्ट के ऊपर इतना उनको मार्जिन मिलना चाहिए. सो 10% ऑफ मार्जिन करेंटली वर्क्स इन एंड गवर्नमेंट गिव्स C3. तो द होल थिंग इज, सो अगर आपका C2 सपोज 100 रुपीज़ हो रहा है and then government gives 10% of C2, which is 10 rupees. So government will decide 110 and go, the farmer still earns only 10% of their cost which they are investing, which is very wrong, but this is the thing. Swaminathan was responsible for green revolution. I guess majority of you will know. We'll learn about it little later in the slides only. So Swaminathan decided it to be 50%. So like in that case, it would be 150 rupees. 50 rupees would turn out to be the net profit. So till now we saw how what is the role of agriculture, how it is affecting, how the productivity is low, what initiative government is taking in it, how MSP is, what is MSP, the minimum selling price, who decides the price, when the prices have been allocated, the list of the crops which we have, how the cost has been calculated, what is floor planning. It prevents from following further. It sets a floor and the price can't fall further. What the places which are sold in mandi so that retailer cannot directly buy the produce from the farmer, and it prevents exploitation of the farmer, which is the whole goal. Now, in what happens is in mandi, the seller, the farmers comes in, the government officials are there as MSP, they decide the price and everything has been purchased. So I talked to you about two important things at the start. The first one was the price, which we dealt with it in setting the floor plan. Now the second was the surplus of the food, how to manage it. So what happens is this mandis buy it from the farmers. So the farmers sell it to the mandis, or let's say government. Now government has their own place to stock them. So they keep it in stock and reserve it. We have special facilities for that places. So to maintain and regulate the price in the market and to have a good control of the stock of the food, so that we do not run out in a situation like 91, which happened, where we were out of grains, would never come again, and we had to buy it from America that time. Coming forward, then again the same thing. It's just a paragraph and more for the understanding. And the government introduces production quotas. This increases the price which producer is intensified to produce less. This saves government from bearing the cost. Another place where government can regulate the food production. So now they can decide if they do not want some crop to be in too much excess and to control the price in global world, globally, like import and export and every places. So they will change the subsidy rate or the minimum selling price which they are. So they will maintain a equilibrium to it. I'll explain how. Suppose we do not we want to supply wheat outstation, and we want more of export of wheat crops. We will increase the MSP of the wheat crop. The farmers will see before the harvesting season, wheat is a rabi crop, so they'll come around Diwali season, like October, before autumn. They'll come and they'll check it that wheat is having a good return, so they'll go and farm wheat, and then government have excess of wheat, and then we will export it. So government is happy, farmers are happy, everyone is happy. So that's the basic way of and then we have agriculture produce market, APMC. This has been a term for a long time in media when all the farmer protests. So the APMCs of the state government, where I told you earlier that mandis are in state under the state government, and state government has APMC, all the states government under the APMC Act, like Agriculture Produce Marketing Act, they have APMC committee. So these committees are responsible for deciding the area where the mandis will be. They regulate the trade and they establish the mandi, and they are accountable for their functioning of the market. These are the important points, and the government, state government takes over. This is another very important how the equilibrium is decided and everything. So APMC plays a vital role because this is the equilibrium point. These are your demands, this is your sell. So the thing is, if government falters to decide the equilibrium price, then there might have been chances where government has to incur loss for buying it, or not able to sell it properly to the consumer. So the thing is कि अगर government में समझो, if market में the rate was pretty good, like it was 22 rupees, and in APMC mandis they fixed a rate at 15 rupees, everyone will go sell it outside. Government would not have stock reserve. जब बाहर बेचा जाएगा, then again the supplies would increase, the rate would decrease. So all the supply and demand का combination of the outside market, like how the companies and retailers are producing, and the mandis, they have to match their price and supply and demand of everything. So this is the quantity demand, quantity supplied, the surplus which we are having here, which goes into the government warehouses, and this is what government has to look after, the surplus. It's the demand curve, supply curve, and this is the price which go the farmers expect, and this is the price of equilibrium. Somewhere here they have to maintain the amount of food grain in the industry, and the rest surplus, like this is the demand and this is the excess. They intend कि यहाँ तक हो जाए, so they do not have to incur a lot of storing cost on it. The price floor have other effect on individual demand to supply. If a price floor is set above the equilibrium price, then it reduces the demand for the commodity, but there is an increase in the supply of it. Exactly. अगर आपने इक्विलिब्रियम से ज़्यादा प्राइस कर दिया, सपोज मार्केट में अगर कम रेट पे है, and you set a very high price, no one will go to the market and everyone will come to the mandis, and then mandis have to bear their storing cost. Now this is again state-wise references, a completely irrelevant series of slides. We'll talk about this thing, the food procurement in food grain industry. This is the place where diversity in crops comes in. So to handle the soil fertility which we discussed earlier, you can also have a variety of क्रॉप्स टू बी ग्रोन. सो उससे क्या होगा कि जो 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 सॉइल में जो न्यूट्रिशन लेवल है वो हर क्रॉप अपने हिसाब से फुलफिल कर देता है ऑन द सीजनल बेसिस एंड एवरीथिंग. एक्सक्यूज मी. So this is the state where we have we'll learn it further. So just for that, the three states are responsible for producing 46% of the wheat in the country and procurement of 85%. I'll tell you what procurement is. Procurement is all the supplies which you take before for your business or for your agriculture. So procurement will include the raw material, the urea, the tractors if you are purchasing and everything. What all things you purchase and source the raw materials. So they produce 46% and they are responsible for 85% of the procurement. Then we have rice, which have been in 6 states, and again 40% of the production and 74% of the procurement. Just number to read through and learn. We have challenges from MSP, which are bias in favor of large farmer, adds to inflation, bias in favor of surplus states, distortion in cropping pattern, expenditure of the government, flaws in PWD system, expenditure to government, the storing cost, bias in the favor of large farmers because large farmers are usually able to get a large amount of stock, so they earn good revenue on the cost because land fragmentation is again an issue. So those who have a large amount of produce, they get a good bit. It adds to the inflation is because they increase the selling price. I mean the price from which they are purchasing to the farmers, and now they can regulate the price. So if government falters there and all the crops go to APMC mandis, so they do not have it a lot in the market and for the companies. So overall the cost increases. Surplus states like again the state of these states, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, and everything, who produce it at last. If you see, if you genuinely go out of curiosity and see, and we will discuss it ahead also, the farmers of Punjab and Haryana have exceptional amount of funds than the farmers of other states comparatively. It distorts the cropping pattern. I told you that government can decide the amount of funds which they are getting from everywhere. Then we have further with the list of kharif crop and here the rabi crops. You can go through and learn it. Again, MSP. This is the slide which is very important. The benefit of MSP, the drawbacks of MSP. Again, an important slide. Okay. So moving forward, the Commission of Agriculture and Cost recommends MSP based on various factors. Again, a very important, how is the factors responsible for MSP? Earlier, what we saw was the how the cost was calculated. So again, the cost of production, demand and supply, market trade, inter-crop price parity, trade of the terms of trade. Inter crop price parity is the place where to increase the diversity of the crops. Like if someone is saying we have list, if someone wants to decide between wheat, copra, safflower, or mustard, like if I'm for the autumns and I want to decide between mustard and wheat. So to decide the amount, amount of things which we need and how we will able to sell it, the government decide that what cost will incur. The opportunity cost is basically calculated over here. Again, a relevant slide. Again, a bunch of links. Just the flow chart of everything for a better understanding and some facts and figures. I'll start with Green Revolution. It's very easy. I'll explain it in a very quick way. We are already 30 minutes into the lecture, and these are the slides which you read through. So, Green Revolution, you know the name. Norman was the father of Green Revolution across the world, and M.S. Swaminathan was in India. Just write M.S. and Swaminathan. He was father of Green Revolution. It took place during 1960. So what happened was in 1966, India did not had wheat seed, and we were literally running out of crops, and we had a very tough time. So what happened that first we got Mexican seeds, which were responsible for wheat production, and only especially the northwest state, Punjab and Haryana, got good wheat. Wheat जिससे रोटी बनती है. So we had to take it from Mexico, the wheat seed. What happened? The we got the seed. The seed were of good quality. They were able to fight the basic like अगर कुछ pesticides होते हैं जो seed खा जाते हैं तो they were able to overcome to that. Then we had was for production of rice where we had HY high yield variety, high yield variety. These seeds were brought into the picture and they boosted the flow of rice too. And this is where the green revolution comes in. Then again, there's the story of it. So you just have to remember the names and the years, a bunch of irrelevant side. Now, what are the problem of low degree of crop diversification? You read this paragraph as like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go with this order. So the thing is that we have this is state, not district. There are state with minimum crop diversification, and then we have states with high crop diversification. So crop diversification is the variety of crops which this state produce. So if you see that in Punjab, Haryana, and the northern state of Punjab, Haryana, and then we have eastern states of Bihar, and then we have central state of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. The states in diversification is very low, and in Punjab and Haryana, 90% of the area is under wheat and rice. So they do not produce a variety of crops. You saw the list of crops. So and they only focus on these two crops, which are giving you higher revenue. Because of this, there is an overall shortage in the market for the amount of crops which we have, and the food grain turns out to be short, and the rate increases. Again, the whole issue is we are controlling the demand and supply with the help of MSP and some incentives and government resource. And then we have in southern states again that the index is very high, the crop diversification, because they produce a variety of rice, maize, pearls, oilseeds, fruits, and everything. In this, you will get only MP from the north, and rest all are South Indian states. The 80% of crops cultivated in Odisha and Bihar was cereals and millet, indicating low level of diversification in this region. Again, Odisha and Bihar comes under our eastern states of very low and degree. Okay. Again, the 28% tax on popcorn. Coming to irrigation. Now, these are the challenges to agriculture. I told you we'll discuss the challenges later in the video too. This is the place where we discuss those challenges. Irrigation again has been a crucial point to note every time it comes to agriculture. We'll do a side-by-side study of it for your understanding. So to promote agriculture, we over here have not useful side. We over here have how government is working to increase the irrigation. So this is how you must prepare. I'll jot through the points, and basically groundwater table level is low. The fresh water availability is very less. And see, out of the 40% irrigated through canal system and 16% through groundwater, and only 49% of the land. So suppose if this is my 100% of the land, only 49% of it is actually been irrigated, and rest 51% has never been irrigated through waters. So you see how less the amount of irrigation facility we have. And even out of this 49%, we have 40% done through the canal system which we have built, and 60% goes to groundwater, and that's why I said groundwater is very necessary. Moving forward to the lack of investment in agriculture research is the so I'll explain you what this fifth year plan comes from and everything. So after, and how particularly government fails managing their own expense and paying to the bureaucrats and civil servant and the government employees, and how much less is given to the farmers. A very important point if you see with respect to understanding the society. Nothing which will come in an exam. You may skip through this a couple of seconds. So the right after the independence, government decided that the country needs to be developed, and to do that, they established planning commission. And we often kid ki this is your 5 year plan, this is your 10 year plan. So the thing is, the 5 year plan, the planning commission used to make a 5 year plan every year. Planning commission is now renamed as Niti Aayog, and now their goal is to achieve sustainable development goals. The Planning Commission used to look after goals like establishing heavy industries, establishing good agriculture system, building canals and dams, and these were one of the starting 3 5 year plans. So in 5 year plans, and back in year 1997 and 2002, during that days, the efforts were made to enhance the research and development, and spending to 1% of the GDP on agriculture. Okay, we wanted to spend 1% of our GDP on agriculture. Till date, that goal has never been achieved. Okay, in India, still around 0.40% of agriculture of GDP is spent on agriculture. See the amount less. Now, out of this amount being spent, 80% of the fund goes in paying the salaries and looking after the welfare of the government employee, and hardly 20% So you see, we are not even getting 1% of the GDP, and even out of that, like 0.40% of agriculture GDP, we are only able to spend 20% for the real R&D, and that's where the entire gap comes in. Again, a irrelevant slide. The land holding patterns and the fragmented land distribution is the issue. It's just a point to know. Farmers' distress is how they have to look after the money lending, the other social need, and basically it's the money lending and financing. How do they fund themselves? These are just a bunch of irrelevant slides. We'll go through the policies implemented. So to increase in irrigation, we have Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, and we have Atal Bhujal Yojana. Atal Bhujal Yojana is the for the groundwater, restoring the groundwater level. Okay, and what do they do? List of important points over here. Promoting crop diversification, we have Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which we mentioned earlier about insuring the crops so that the crops which we do not have, like for wheat and rice, the main reason was we had a good amount of R&D and D and we outsourced those Mexican crops and the high yield variety of seeds. So here we do not have any such growth or a long-term research in these other crops which are not being grown. So for that we have Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, that even if the crops fails due to some pests and anything, you do not have to worry about your cost. Then we have Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. It is again Rashtra means nation, Krishi means agriculture, Vikas means growth Yojana. Then we have improving in infrastructure, which includes road, storage facility, market linkage, the canals and everything. We have Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Gram Sadak means rural road and rural connectivity. And then we have national, which came under e-marketing to national agriculture market. Then we have providing subsidies for the equipments and everything so that the farmer can have good amount of resources for farming and they actually have a promising return. The introduction of IT, how Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana and Kisan Credit Card to get avail EV loans. The slide should have been come at a very start, a very important slide for understanding the overview of the chapter of how agriculture price policy is India and how you determine the price, how the price has been administered and how it is implemented. So for determination, we have CACP, which also goes in with the Commission of Economic, the Cabinet of Economic Department. Then we have price like MSP, we have statutory minimum support price, the procurement price, the issue price are the price which we look into. Then we implement it through the mandis, APMC mandis, and how the all the stocks are regulated and how the storage has been done. Now, what was the need of this agriculture pricing policy in India? Something which we discussed at the start. So every time we study, just know why are we doing this? What was the need? Like a big why question, and this is the answer to it. There has been a rapid and violent fluctuation in the agriculture market to safeguard the interest of consumer producers, to build buffer stock, to farmers through MSP so that they get the minimum return. Again, the same thing has been mentioned into sentences from the book. If you want to read, you can read. Then we again have what is MSP, it's the minimum support price. The statutory minimum support price is for jute, sugar cane. So it's just the same thing with a different name. Then we have fair and remuneration price, and like for sugar cane and sugar beets. So what happens is the sweet, the sugars which we eat is it is coming out of the sugar cane. So instead of selling it to the mandis and government also to prevent the extra cost of storing them, what do they people do? They sell it directly to the big factory. Our sugar mill is, I guess, a listed company and is into this. I've been to their factory, so I know it very well. So these companies have sugar mills from the farmers, and the government has been intervening in the government intervention is still there in the industry too, like the private industry and the capital market too, so that there has been a fair remuneration price decided for the sugar cane which the farmers sell directly. And then the government state advisory price. Again, for sugar cane has been promoted a lot because it not only produces sugar, but it also gives ethanol, which has been the latest trend. And even in liquor, it has come in. Then we have procurement prices, which the government produces from producers. And then we have issue price, the fair market, and everything. Again, irrelevant slide. Another one, another one. Then we have NAFASA. This is food security and tracking the food and inflation problem. The National Food Security Act, the objective is very simple. And I would ask you to go through this. The objective is to provide food and nutrition and to ensure that access and adequate quantity in food and it is an affordable price and everything. So that people, get the basic amount of food, they have the basic amount of nutrition in their food. So the coverage is again, the amount of coverage is not really necessary. The objective was necessary, then there were some provisions. So if you know in your area you have ration shops which provide a very subsidized. For that you need to have a ration card. Mostly a orange ration card is needed as far as I know. I'm not confirming that point. So the food grains per person and the people living in an home, and after every 3 years they revise it. So at ration shops you get it at a very subsidized rate, and so you have to show the card. On card you will have all the names of your family members listed, and behind every family member you will be allotted a particular kg of rice. So this is the whole concept of that food security. Then we again have Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, as I said, was planning commission on recommendation of NAFASA. No price evasion here. Economic survey discussed it, and then two-thirds the census and how much does they cover. Okay, so Niti Aayog looks after sustainable development goal. Sustainable development goal was set by UN. The UN said that there should be no hunger and people should not, like proper nutrition should not only no hunger, the proper nutrition should be provided, and Niti Aayog looks after sustainable development goals. So they coordinated with NFS, NAFASA, NFSA, the Act, and then they are providing the proper amount of food grains. That's all written. The some points related to NAFASA. I think if you'll read through, you will get a good understanding. And that's where we end. It took around 40 minutes, maybe a lecture. But yeah, on 2x speed, you would have covered it in 20 minutes or something. If you think there are any suggestions or something, please let me know. I mean, it's just one night before our exams, we pull it. So, and if you have any query or something, you can DM me on Instagram. I've mentioned my link below, or you can meet me in college tomorrow. I'll see you. All the best for your exam. Bolo Jai Shri Ram. And thank you so much for watching the video.